So specifically, when I say that a work of activist art must do more than just raise awareness, but must provide creative solutions, in the case of my play Emission, the premise is that an inventor has invented an additive to gasoline that will make carbon emissions coming out of the car visible as a dark smoke. So people will get a literal and visceral impression of the way they're fouling the earth. This additive is virtually costless. It adds a few cents a gallon to the price of gasoline. And it is not harmful. It's just a colorant. So in the play, you have an inventor who's trying to get this idea passed as a bill in New York State, because if a state like New York State adds this to their gasoline, then as one of the larger states, then perhaps California will, and then many of the smaller states will follow. But of course there is the industry lobbyist who is fighting against this with very logical reasoning that A, human nature can't be changed, that B, even though global warming is a fact, and it will in fact destroy much of the world, she believes that we must protect the rights of the rich because those are the ones who will carry on in this new era of a completely degraded Earth. So you have this tension between this creative idea and possibly very socially changing idea, and then a sense of reality in the sense that, say, Dick Cheney dealt with reality as it was and not as it could be. So this is the kind of tension I see in the world. Now I also have within this play a chorus which kind of takes a wider view the way a Greek chorus would, but mine happens to be a jazz chorus. It will be scored with jazz and sung to jazz. Again, I think it's very important in activism to use beauty as a tool of infiltration. I think the power of beauty is underutilized sometimes in the sense that beauty can affect someone's emotions and then get them to think about the ideas in a much more personal way than, say, shock art. I'm not a believer in shock art or shock activism. So the other element in this play is there's a tremendous sexual energy, and that represents the perversity with which we are treating this suicidal climate issue. I say suicidal because I believe we, humanity, are like a smoker who knows they're smoking themselves to death but can't give up cigarettes. So we are literally smoking ourselves to death with all these carbon emissions. So I have used the sex as a metaphor for the perversity with which we deal with society. Now the activist component are numerous. Obviously there is the specific idea I have come up with to have an additive like this, which probably would not be difficult from a chemical point of view to create and add to gasoline. That's one activist idea. And in fact, some climate activists I was talking to about this issue said, can we propose that idea as an idea? To which I said, of course, because in activism, the most important thing is to have the idea implemented, or infiltration. My activism is very much based on infiltration. Also, there is the visceral way in which people respond to theater, so that by having a theater show, the audience will be affected by these ideas and sort of see from afar the perversity with which we're treating them. But even more so, my activism is very much aligned with involving the mainstream media, because we, as a culture, define reality by what we read in the newspaper, whether we agree with it or not, or whether we think that is reality. That's the way reality is defined. So by getting a Rauschenberg grant and being able to put this on at an off-Broadway level in New York City, the New York Times would inevitably write a review. They review virtually all off-Broadway productions. So then you are accessing the mass media. Now, the next leap is to go from the style or theater or art section into the main section. And again, that's part of the process. So after putting the play up, having a run, getting hopefully a very positive review, or at least acknowledging the importance of the issues, because these are creative ways of presenting these issues. Then making a leap by working with climate action groups, by working with politicians that are interested in this issue, and then the next leap in activism, in my prophetic activist art, my conception of it, is to leap from the art world into the mainstream world of society and politics. And it's often an uncomfortable leap, because we as artists are not often used to working with people in the worlds of business and politics, and yet to have truly make a difference, you have to work within that world. So the ideas behind Emission grow out of a 20-year activist career as a writer and as a producer and as a painter, and then they coalesce. They've been coalesced into this one project where I go back and I do a beautiful work